All right, Fran Duffy, what are the newest additions to PHLY? And are you all right there? You came up for air late last night. I know you were in the film room for many, many hours, Fran. You did your PHLY Eagles with the guys. You did your film evaluation. I watched all of it. And how are you doing today? Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it, John. Yeah, it was a long day yesterday. The short weeks don't hit as well as they used to, a decade ago. But we're making do. We're doing all right. So I'm going to do the defensive recap. The article just went up on all PHLY literally like minutes ago, and then I'm working on the offensive one here shortly.
All right, run defense, pass rush, all the things are being talked about. Curious to your thoughts when you went back and you looked at it. What is going on? Let's talk about the run defense first, because this is one of these things where it's like, all right, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. All right, I'm worried about the pass rush. I'm not worried about the run defense with those guys in there. And you look what's happened through the first two games. They're getting eaten up. They're giving up big yards per carry. So when you went back and looked at the film, what are you seeing?
Well, in this game against Atlanta, we'll just go with that one, just the most recent one, because obviously the run defense was not good enough. When you look at Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson, those guys averaged about 6.5 yards a carry as a duo. And so that is not sustainable over the long haul of the NFL season. And a big part of the reason why Atlanta really leaned into a lot of their zone runs, and specifically their outside zone, where they're trying to get the whole defense running from one side or the other. And when you're doing that, you are putting stress not just on the defensive linemen, but on the linebackers as well. And I think in this game, Zach Bond did not play well against the run, and too often ended up on the ground. And there were a number of shots where Atlanta's right guard, Chris Lindstrom, who's a really, really good player, didn't have a great week in week one against Pittsburgh. It was one of the worst games of his career, but bounced back in a big way. He was able to get Bond on the ground too often in this game. The Eagles have got to get this figured out from the zone running standpoint. By far right now in the NFL, they've given up more yards per carry against these zone run schemes than anybody in the league. It's like by like a yard and a half per carry that they are out in front. And things don't get easier this week against New Orleans, because that's one of the things they do extremely well. And so right now it's a gap discipline thing. There's missed tackles at all three levels. And then, like I said, the ability to defeat those blocks one-on-one, that's been a big problem so far through 2 weeks.
Carter getting double teamed a lot. I've seen Bryce Huff almost look like he shouldn't be put in on potential running downs because he's getting swallowed up and pushed around by the offensive lineman. What about Jordan Davis? Talk about those three players right there. Jordan Davis is supposed to be the anchor of this defensive line to where you can't run on them. So what's going on when you look at the interior and Bryce Huff? What is going on with them with the run?
Yeah, I would say with Jordan Davis, because of the way Atlanta played for the majority of the game on Monday night, that performance, I wouldn't necessarily put on Jordan. And I have not been the biggest Jordan Davis supporter over the last couple of years, but in this specific game, I actually think he played a little bit better than what the consensus would be. I think he was a little bit weaker last week against Green Bay. What you're really hoping for Jordan Davis is a lot of those downhill run schemes, those at-you runs where the running back is getting downhill. That's where he's going to really kind of make his hay. He's going to be able to hold the ground, hold on to those double teams. But the moment the offensive line is trying to get you on the run, that's where Jordan Davis, he's not going to be as effective. And so to me, this game was much more about those guys on the backside. And you mentioned Bryce Huff. He was not good against the run in this game. Now, he had one flash play, and it was at the very end. Honestly, that fourth down stop by C.J. Gardner-Johnson, that was the last run play for Bryce Huff in this game, and it was the most impactful. But other than that, I mean, he's getting washed down by Kyle Pitts, who is not going to get confused for George Kittle anytime soon. He's getting blocked too often on the edge. He gave up the edge a number of times early in the second half. And so, to me, if you're just looking at Bryce Huff versus Nolan Smith, last year's first-round pick, like neither one of these guys is giving you anything as a pass rusher. But at least Nolan Smith is impacting the game as a run defender. He's setting a strong edge. He's playing with good effort. He's showing strength there at the point of attack. And so I think you're getting a little bit more now from Nolan. It wouldn't shock me, because they're platooning those guys right now. It wouldn't shock me if you started to see it tilt a little bit more in Nolan Smith's favor in terms of a snap share.
All right, I gotta be positive for a second with Bryce Huff. Because I'm trying, because when you watch the first two games, he needs to change his jersey number, because he's giving you 0, wearing number 0. When you look at the pass rush win rate, last 2 years, he was number 1, I believe, in 2022, and he was top 5 in 2023. This year, he's tied for 146th. So is this just where we need a larger sample size and for him to kind of get acclimated and acquainted to this defense? Is Vic Fangio putting him in the right position to be successful? I just don't know how you go from one of the best in the league at winning against your guy for 2 straight years and you look like you don't even deserve getting snaps at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with Bryce Huff is that it was going to be a little bit of a projection because he had never been an every down player. And last year was really the only year where he had production. He had 10 sacks last year, but before that, he had never had more than 3.5 in a season, if my memory serves. So it was the analogy I would make is that it's, you're signing a guy that just hit 28 home runs as a 7-hole hitter for a 500 baseball team to come in and be your cleanup guy. That's what you're hoping is that, hey, you know what? This is going to project. He's going to slide into this role and he's going to take off. And so far, the early returns have not been great there. He's not playing the run well. Now, the one thing I would like, going back and looking at some of the data last night, you go to Next Gen Stats, and one thing you'd like to be able to see from your pass rushers, especially a guy with Huff's, with his skill set, their get-off speed and their ability to get off the ball. He's got one of the better get-offs in football, certainly the best on the team right now in terms of the GPS tracking. And so that is still carrying over. To me, it's about his ability to just win at the top of the rush, and he has not been able to do that well enough. And to me, you look at that final drive, I think that's kind of a microcosm of what you're seeing right now, is that in that situation, you take away play action, you take away misdirection, you take away the threat of the screen game, right? Because that is a must-have it pass, pure drop back pass situation there for the Atlanta Falcons. You should be able to pin your ears back as a rusher and go. This is what you're hoping for. This is what you're paid to do. And Bryce Huff wasn't able to sniff Kirk Cousins throughout the course of that drive. And so to me, like they've got to get this figured out. He has got to get this figured out. Maybe getting back into being more of a rotational player will be good for him. Now, the Eagles aren't going to get their bang for their buck if that's the case, but at least you're getting something out of him. Right now, he is just not playing well enough.
Awesome. Vic Fangio, and I want to ask you one question on the offense coming up. But Vic Fangio, like you had said on that drive, in your opinion, based on what you're seeing, are you surprised he's not being a little bit more creative? Or he, at times, I know that he did, I think they got beat on a blitz, actually, for a touchdown. But are you surprised that I just felt helpless watching that final drive, and it was like, well, do something. How do you evaluate Fangio and what he's done so far as coordinator?
Yeah, I was not shocked that they didn't blitz more in this game. We talked about it last week on the PHLY Eagles show, is that my anticipation was that they were going to blitz less against the Falcons just because of Kirk Cousins' propensity to get the ball out fast. And so I didn't think this was going to be a big blitzing game, and they blitzed less here this week than they did in week 1 against Green Bay. One of the things I was most interested to see going back and watching the film, John, was, all right, what happened on that final drive from a schematic standpoint? Did they try and mix things up? Was it a straight prevent defense? We weren't getting like great angles on the broadcast for that. So just what were they trying to do? I'll tell you what, like they went and they were mixing things up. They changed coverages. Sometimes they blitzed, sometimes they ran stunts. They changed up their fronts. They were doing all different kinds of things. Nothing worked. You had the blown coverage from the rookie corner, Quinyon Mitchell. That's going to happen when you play rookies in the secondary. So that was unfortunate that happened in that prime spot. Then Mitchell got beat on the very next play on a great route from Darnell Mooney. So you give up those 2 explosive plays, all while the pass rush is not getting home. I thought on third down throughout the course of the game, one of the things that their goal was to take away Drake London. There was a lot of designated double teams, some creative coverage calls from Vic Fangio and from that secondary coaching staff where, hey, you know what, we're going to try and get 2 sets of eyeballs on Drake London on third down and in the red zone. Not going to let him beat us. Well, all throughout the game, they did a really good job of that, of taking that away, forcing Cousins to get to his second read. Final play of the game, credit Atlanta. They did a good job of having Drake London in the slot, and then very late they moved him outside. They forced a one-on-one with Slay, and then London ran a great route. Slay said after the game, like, yeah, that's on me. He ran a great route. Hadn't run that at all in the game to that point. He goes to the pylon. Cousins puts it on him, and it's a touchdown. And so to me, it was just a combination of a lot of things in that final drive. But at the end of the day, the rush, that was the most disappointing thing, because in that situation, that's what you're paid to do, right? And you think of these good Eagles defenses over the years, when you get into that situation, that's where those guys are able to take over. Fletcher Cox comes up with a big sack. Hassan Reddick comes up with a big sack. Chris Long comes up with a big sack, right? Those guys, they are starving for those situations, and no one was able to step up in that situation.
All right. I know you said you'll have something up today on the offense. Just curious, through 2 games. So To me, I was seeing too much Jalen Hurts rolling to the right again. And they're 2 touchdown drives. If you look at the play-by-play, now, like, you look at the film, but like, he's scrambling a lot. He's running for a lot of yards. In that first touchdown drive, really, the 2 big chunk plays that he made were when he ran. He split the defenders on the one. Great plays. I just wonder, when you go back and watch the film, is he seeing the field well right now? Is he missing open receivers? Is he leaving the pocket too early when he's sensing pressure? How would you evaluate Jalen Hurts from that standpoint in the first 2 games of the season?
I would say I would agree there are a lot of scrambles in there, and so there's a little bit of everything. I would say overall that it's been mostly positive when he has broken the pocket. He has done it for good reason, and he has had good results as a result of that. I think the one that stands out to mind where it was like, oh, like this is one where he left a little bit early, or maybe he should have thrown it here. There was the one where he rolled to his right and he hit Devontae Smith. Devontae had that one really acrobatic catch where he toe tapped along the sideline against Atlanta. That was one where he turned down a throw. I want to say it was to Jahan Dotson in the slot. It was against pressure, so the blitz was coming, and Dotson was the hot route there. That said, over the course of this game and going back to Green Bay last week, that was something that Jalen has done a really good job of this year, is understanding, hey, when I'm blitzed, when I'm hot, this is where the outlet is. A number of Britton Covey's targets in this game were plays like that. Dallas Goedert had a play that was just like that. And so he just didn't throw it to Dotson there, rolled to his right to where Devontae was, and was able to hit him for the first down. That's one of those, like, not great process, great results type of plays. But
Right.
I think overall he has done a really good job of understanding where he needs to go with the football. And if it's not there, that's when he kind of gets into creation mode. Sometimes the defense fools him. To me, the pre-snap stuff with Jalen has been really, really impressive. And that has set him up for success more often than not once the ball snapped.
Fran Duffy, PHLY Eagles analyst. You can follow him on Twitter. It's F Duffy NFL. Last thing, was it a mistake to throw the ball on 3rd down? Should they have just ran it, tried to get a first down, wound the clock, and taken your chances like that?
We were watching it right in the studio. There it was myself, Bo Wolf, Jamie Lynch, Vinny Curry. And in the moment, I said that you got to run the ball here. I think just because of where you had it from a field position standpoint, that's 4 down territory there, because to me, like, you don't want to kick the field goal and go up 6 and still have them give them the ability to win that game. Worst case scenario, you get stopped short on 3rd down. If you want to throw it on 4th down, you want to run that same exact play that you called on 3rd down, you can call that on 4th down. But to me, the Atlanta was out of timeouts. Suck another 30, 40 seconds off the clock. So yes, I know that those can be easy decisions to make from the comfort of the studio as opposed to on the sideline. But to me, I like that more for a running play in that situation. I would have run it twice there to just try and end the game in that way, especially with the way Saquon Barkley was running the ball on Monday night.